You're alive, and
Hello, hello.
welcome
How's it
to our
going?
guest. Hello, it is an honor to have you, Buckeye. I've been following you for a while, actually.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, I've been following you, Red Eagle, a lot of these political guys, and honestly, it's just refreshing to have people like you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, let me just get my. That's much better.
There we go.
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, our guest. Yes, and so we've introduced him, I think, on this questionnaire. Who are you? Your Buckeye politics. And my second question is, when did you start YouTube?
So I started YouTube in early 2021. I just watched. Had been watching and interacting with people like Red Eagle and Let's Talk Elections well up until the 2020 election, and even before that, like in the 2020 primaries, I had been
Mhm.
watching them. But I didn't actually start posting until 2021 when I kind of got some better software and actually decided to make videos.
All right, and then so our next one is, why did you start the channel?
Well, when I first started it, I was actually very much a libertarian. So I thought that I would kind of provide that third way insight. I was very socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. And
Mhm.
Red Eagle, he's more populist conservative, and LTE at the time was more liberal. So I thought it would kind of provide that third way. I've become much more conservative now.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that really didn't work out. But I originally started because I thought I was a little bit more unbiased, which is kind of, I guess, uh,
Yeah,
it's kind of, I shouldn't
definitely.
really say that. Yeah, that seems kind of. I don't want. I don't. It seems like I'm boasting a bit, but that's how I felt, and also
No,
because I was more sympathetic to, I guess, both sides at the time.
oh, definitely. And then, actually, the third one is, so you're obviously from Ohio. So why is Ohio? I know it's one of those important states that I kind of has to win in order to become president, but why isn't it just important in general?
Well, Ohio used to be the backbone of like all of the United States, really. I mean, we still kind of are. You look at the
Mhm.
tech industry. We actually have a lot of tech jobs here, a lot of farming
Yeah,
here. I mean, we had basically have a little bit of everything, and I think that's why Ohio is just such a perfect place. I mean, if you want warmer climate, you can go to Cincinnati. I mean, I know I say warm, but it is kind of nice there. We got mountains, we have beaches. I mean, we have a little bit of everything, and I think that you kind of get a mix of Midwestern culture and the more western part of the state. You have some kind of northeastern tendencies. You have some of Appalachia in the south. So we're kind of just like the crossroads of a lot of American regions. And I think that's why it's just a very important state, I would say.
yeah, it's very important. And I actually have a friend who goes to Ohio State University.
Oh, nice. Go
Yeah,
Buckeyes.
yep. And also on my Saturday stream, when I was talking about some Michigan, some actually dogman sightings, a lot of them were actually from Ohio, which is interesting. That'll be something I revisit later on in a stream on Saturday. But this is on politics. So I've been following you, and recently you've been talking about issue one. So I've been digging into this. Why is issue one so important?
Well, issue one is important for a lot of reasons. I mean, everyone's going to tell you it's about abortion, it's about trying to take control of the state government so people can't change the laws, but that's not really what it's about. I mean, the Ohio Constitution, and I think the founding father, basically what issue one is, for those of you who don't know, it's a bill or it's a referendum that'll be on the ballot tomorrow, August 8th. And if it passes, it'll change the requirements to amend the Ohio Constitution from currently you just need a simple majority. So 50.1%, the Constitution's changed. 49.9% disagree, it still changes. That would raise the issue one would raise the threshold to 60% needed to change the Constitution. And it would also do some stuff with currently you only need signatures in 44 counties to amend the Constitution. It would make it all 88. So you would need widespread support to amend the Constitution because you would have to get signatures from every single county, and you'd also need 60% of the vote in the referendum to amend the state constitution. And really, I think what it comes down to is people say, oh, they're just doing it because of the abortion referendum in November. And that might be true. But even if that wasn't true, I would still vote yes on this issue. And I still think it's important
Oh,
because the Ohio Constitution has been amended, I think, 170 times since 1912 compared to the U.S. Constitution, which is like 27, I believe, 26 or 27,
mm-hmm.
which is crazy. I mean, the Constitution is supposed to be the document that lays out, the foundation for the state government. but we've changed it so many times, and it's so easy to change that I think there needs to be some sort of
Definitely.
limits to how we go about, our state constitution.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the way you described how they currently do it, that sounds kind of like a direct democracy where it's just you gotta get the 50% majority. Like,
Yep, that's it.
mm,
That's how it is right now.
yeah, I would definitely, and obviously there's going to be a lot of people rewatching this. For people who are in Ohio, I and Buckeye politics would both say to vote yes on this.
Yep.
Yes, and because listen, we do not want the mob rule. Well, that's the biggest thing that the Democrats want. Like they've said for years, they've wanted to abolish the electoral college, and I think this plays right back into this.
Yeah.
And I think this also went. We also were able to get the next question, which was what is your stance on? I think that we got that pretty well. If you want to elaborate on it.
Yeah, so kind of like I said, I mean, yeah, I mean, part of me is supporting it just because I don't want abortion laws in Ohio to be changed in November. That's partially why I'm supporting it. But the main reason is, like I said, because I just think it needs to be a little bit more difficult to amend the state constitution. If you want
Oh,
to just have a
definitely.
referendum, then that's and then give 50%, that's fine. But if you want to go in and fundamentally change the document that kind of is the cornerstone for our state government, I think you do need widespread support for that and not just a 50%.
You definitely do, and I've been looking into some articles. One question I didn't put is, what is the mainstream's view on this? What are the mainstream media? Are they saying that do not vote on this? Do not vote yes on this?
Well, it's actually been pretty mixed. I've been kind of
Mhm.
surprised. I mean, normally the media in Ohio isn't. I don't. I mean, there's the Columbus Dispatch and the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Those are two newspapers that are pretty popular here. Those are both usually pretty left wing, but a lot of more local publications and media sources are actually pretty unbiased. It's kind of surprising,
Yeah.
but pretty much a lot of people in the media have been actually against this. I mean, if you look at the thing on Ballotpedia, there's a list of people who have endorsed the issue one and who oppose it, and there's so many newspapers locally and just statewide media sources that are against this. If you look at articles, there's a lot that are like unbiased, just say what's going on. But there's also a lot that tell people to vote no. I think it's interesting that this is the issue that a lot of state media has kind of chosen to go to oppose. I think it's just kind of interesting. I'm not really sure why. I'm assuming it's because of the whole abortion side of
Well,
things, but you know, but I would say that the media is pretty much against it. But I think a lot of Ohioans are actually for it. I mean, just driving around, I posted about this on like Twitter, I think yesterday. I live in a pretty blue area, but I mean, just driving around,
yeah, I saw that.
there's a bunch of vote yes signs. I drove to another part of the state where I used to live. That's a very conservative area, and there were literally vote yes signs on almost every house. So I think that we are starting to see some grassroots support for issue one, even though a lot of people are telling us to vote against it.
Definitely. This is totally what happens. I mean, it's the same thing with Trump in 2016. The whole media was telling you Hillary was going to win or to vote for Hillary, and look at what happened. I think this is a similar thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I would not be surprised at all if, despite what the media says and despite the polling, if issue one ends up passing tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it passes, and obviously you're going to be streaming that tomorrow, but we'll go back to that. So there's a lot of other things going on. Recently the U.S. women's national team got knocked out of the World Cup, and people on Twitter are lambasting Rapinoe, which I think you'd agree she deserves to get lambasted for
Absolutely.
100%. And I see a lot of people like there's not a lot of people defending her. Obviously you had the shills, but let me just see because and let me like I saw her name's currently trending on Twitter right now. Her name is trending on Twitter, and President Trump actually someone pull up a something from 2021, and this so let's get this up. This is the clip.
I got in a little trouble. I said that our women's soccer team was supposed to easily win, but they went woke, except for a few of them. I love those women that stood up and they saluted our flag. There were some of them. But the one with the purple hair, she didn't play too well. She went woke. You can have her. And they didn't do too well, unfortunately. We want them to do well, but they didn't. But it's true about woke. You just take a look. Everything goes bad. It's a shortcut to losing everything you have.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we've seen, I've actually covered a lot of the woke on this channel because it's such a prevalent thing. And I was having a conversation with some family friends who were over yesterday about how woke everything has gotten. I think you'd agree with this sentiment that a lot of our workplaces have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in the media, it's in Hollywood, it's in schools, it's in businesses. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah, and actually, so for my freshman orientation at the school I go to, one of the icebreakers they do, like icebreakers, like a get to know you, was your
Yeah.
pronouns. What are your
Oh.
pronouns? And I did not answer that one. And they seemed to be okay with it. I was afraid that they were going to have to ask, that they were going to be more insistent. And I'm like, what am I going to say? I'm not going to just say that. What my pronouns are. It's crazy.
Definitely.
And I'm not sure what your job situation is, but my father works at a major company and they implemented this whole pronoun thing, and he runs a department, and people in his department were asking him if they had to include their pronouns, and my dad said that you don't have to do that. And if anyone asks, it'll be on me.
Good for your dad.
Yeah, very good for my dad. And when I'm also at my school, I see a lot of neural, like at my school, I think it's actually, there's a lot more conservative. You'll be surprised that I think it's like a 63% of it is like conservative from what I'm seeing.
That's good. Yeah, I've noticed just in my personal experience that I think Generation Z, I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but I'm part of Gen Z.
Yeah.
And I think our generation is going to be more conservative than the millennials. I don't think we're going to be like some major right-wing Republican voting bloc, but I do think that we're going to be a little more balanced in our views and have a more conservative edge than other generations.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm in my 20s, but I am definitely seeing, and it's a good thing. And actually, this one kid who I was acquainted with, who I don't even remember his name, but I know that he's like part Puerto Rican, and like he told me half of his family voted for Trump, I think both times.
Nice.
And
That's great.
I think that is really good, because you see with these indictments, it's starting to turn a lot of minorities towards Trump because they see this, and you can elaborate on this more, or if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a lot of reasons that minorities are trending Republican. I mean, if you look at I guess the data, a lot of urban areas that are mostly African American, Hispanic, Asian, those are some of the areas that trended the most Republican in 2020 to Trump, and we saw that kind of continue in 2022. So I think there's a lot of reasons that Republicans are doing better with minorities. I think a lot of it is just our economic message. I think Trump has had a good message about bringing back jobs, cutting taxes. I mean, it's really simple stuff. I mean, if the economy's bad, you just tell people how you're going to fix it. And that's what Trump has really excelled at, especially in places like the upper Midwest. And that kind of does turn over, because if you look at a lot of minority communities, I mean, a lot of them are working class voters, especially Hispanics. I mean, they're very similar, I guess, economically to rural white voters, which Trump did very well in 2016. So that message kind of works across racial lines because it's just common sense stuff, really.
Definitely, it's just common sense stuff, and and you also see, and I know I don't like Cornel West. I don't agree with him, but I think he'd also be a very significant force for the 2024 election.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, if I was a Democrat, I'd be very worried about him running.
Yeah, and I saw because I saw this information while I was away in Turks and Caicos about how there are third parties forming, and I just saw the Democrats and the paid shills on Twitter throwing fits, and they looked panicked. They were panicked that there was going to be this big uproar, and a lot of people were going to be exiting the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I mean that totally could happen. I mean, if Cornel West gets on the ballot in, all 50 states, especially the swing states, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I mean, if he's on the ballot there and he's actually campaigning, then that's easily, I mean, Biden barely won those states in 2020,
Mhm.
and his approval rating has gone downhill from there. So, I mean, it's not hard to see even just 1 or 2% of Biden voters in 2020 switching to Cornel West or
Yes.
whoever else might run, and Trump manages to win those
Yeah,
states.
and you're very good with statistics. You, Red Eagle, a lot of the people who talk about politics and elections, we've seen this in the past with split vote elections. I think one of the first major ones was 1860 with Lincoln.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the Democrats had like 3 candidates that
Yes,
election.
3 candidates, and they ended up losing because there was like three different. There was Breckinridge. I know there's Breckinridge was one of them, and there was like I forgot the names of the two others.
No, McClellan. Who else was there? McClellan was 1864.
Yes.
It was, I think, John Bell
Yeah.
and Stephen Douglas, I believe. But
Yes.
one of those might be 1856.
Yeah. Well, I know Stephen Douglas was one of Lincoln's major opponents from a historical perspective.
Yeah,
Then you've also got the 1912 election, which I think is one of America's most catastrophic elections.
I would agree with that.
And Woodrow Wilson was one of our worst presidents, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And I think that it was very detrimental that Taft and Roosevelt could not work together, because if they had, they could have prevented Wilson from doing all the damage he has done and which continues to resonate in the United States.
Yeah, that's one election that I really wish we could have changed the outcome to.
Yes. If we ever develop time travel, that's what we're going to do.
Yep, definitely.
Another election was both Bush's election back in 92 and Bush WHW's 2000. Those were very significant third party.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen some people that claim Ross Perot kind of took away from both Clinton and Bush, but I mean, there's been mixed
Yeah, those are
like stuff on who he took away from, but I personally think he took away more from Bush than Clinton.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think that's very, and also another thing I was hearing them claim about was that Jill Stein took away from Hillary Clinton, which I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that. I never really thought of it until that was brought up.
I mean, I guess that it's obvious that Jill Stein took away some vote, but I don't really think that's what gave Trump the election.
No,
yeah.
Definitely. It wasn't that significant. I think that Trump won because his message just resonated better in 2016.
Yeah.
I think it's going to resonate again much better in 2024. I think it'll resonate even better than in 2020.
Yeah, I agree. I think Trump's 2016 and 2020 campaigns were very different, and we've seen which one was more successful. So I think if he just follows his 2016 rhetoric, I think he should have no problem winning in 2024.
Oh, I definitely agree. And we have to, because if we don't get that election, like if some other candidate, like a friend of my mom, who's the only reason she's a friend of my mom is because my sister is friend with the daughter of that family, and she's like very big Republican, and she actually back in 2020 and predicted that she thought that Chris Christie might end up getting the nominee because the RNC wants a more moderate candidate. But I mean, I don't think that's going to happen.
I would be very surprised if that happened.
I hope not. He was not a good governor. I live in New Jersey, so I know how Chris Christie was.
Yeah, Chris Christie was, I don't know. I mean, he seemed okay, actually, when he first ran and got elected, but his actual job was pretty poor, I would say.
Yeah, I think he was much better in the first term. He was much more well-liked than that second term was really bad. It turned a lot of... It's kind of the reason why Phil Murphy got into governor and not, I think, Kim Guadado was the name.
Yeah, his lieutenant governor.
Yeah, and I've been working a lot with the NJGOP. My friend Dan, he works for the campaign of Shirley Maya Cusack, who's running for Senate in New Jersey. Obviously, I think Ohio's got like one of the best senators so far, JD Vance.
Yep, I love JD.
Yes, he's an amazing, and I think Shirley, if she gets in, she'll be a close second. And she's a Brazilian American, a grandmother of 6, and she only wants to be there for 2 terms.
That's good. Does she support term limits, I'm assuming?
Yeah, and she's running against one of the worst senators in the country, I think, Bob Menendez.
He's so corrupt.
He is so corrupt, and you know, I'll have to get you back on with Danny, because Danny has so much information that I didn't even know about Menendez, about how corrupt this guy is. This guy is a scum. He is so scummy. He's like Chuck Schumer's sidekick.
Yeah.
and if we let them get in, we're going to turn into South Africa. Like situation you saw, and that's something I wanted to get to also is South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
We also, let me actually get the thing up. It was where you see this massive stadium, and this is the
revolution demand that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
And that is terrifying in South Africa. And then there's this.
Alliance. Shoot to kill. Kamaza. Kill the poor. The farmer. Kill the poor. The farmer.
I mean, what are your thoughts? I saw you retweeted something from End Wokeness about those 2 farmers who were killed.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what's been happening. That stuff's been happening in South Africa for a few years now. I think Tucker Carlson talked about it in like 2018. And I remember everyone in the media, everyone online just attacked him because, there's no problem in South Africa. It's a fully functioning, democracy. You're just fear mongering. And then if you look at the actual statistics, I mean, one of the most dangerous professions I think in the world is being a farmer in South Africa, because there are gangs that go out there and will hunt you down. And I mean, we've seen the EFF, they're not a major political party, but they still get 10% of the vote. I mean, if 1 in 10 people in your country is supporting a party that sings songs like that, I mean, it's pretty obvious it's not safe for you.
Oh, it's definitely not safe. And this is the end of ever since the end of apartheid there, we've seen this happen, and we're seeing possible stuff happen here. We could see, like we saw the Summer of Love in the US, and we also saw in New York on Friday, there was that whole thing with Kai Cenat.
Yeah, and the PlayStation.
Yeah, my friend actually was in New York on Friday and heard it through the train speakers that was happening.
Huh.
And we also saw, obviously, Summer of Love. And as we were hanging into 2024, we've got to be wondering, what are they going to pull?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, we've started to see the groundwork here in the United States for what's been happening in South Africa and Europe with the mass migration. Because, I mean, the whole thing with Europe was 10 years ago or so, a little less than that. I mean, they had just massive waves of immigration from North Africa and the Middle East because of the Arab Spring and all that. And, I mean, we're seeing something very similar now with people from South and Central America coming across our border. So, and then we've seen since then, Europe has become super dangerous. I mean, we saw the riots in France
Yes.
earlier this summer. We've seen the terrorist attacks in France. We've seen the stuff happening in Sweden and the UK. And I mean, that was caused by unchecked mass immigration from North Africa and the Middle East. And we're seeing the same thing now from South and Central America. So I think it's interesting to look at those places because it's like that could easily be the United States in 10 years.
Yes. Which is why we've got to do stuff like, obviously, the issue one, it's got to start at the local level, but also we've got to make sure that we stay diligent, because we all saw what happened in 2020.
Talking about the election or
Yes,
the
we all
riots
saw
or
what happened, both election and the riots.
okay. Yeah,
It's,
I mean, both of those were kind of a wake up call, I think, to a lot of people.
yes, definitely a wake up call. And you've seen a lot of people like Steve Bannon recently said that don't go back to sleep when in the event that Trump wins in 2024, because it's going to be we've got to really clean our house. We're going to be in for a long fight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if Trump wins in 2024, I mean, he's 4 years is nowhere near enough to undo all the damage that's been done by Biden, by Obama, by Bush when it comes to foreign policy, Clinton. I mean, it's going to take a long time to undo all this stuff, which is why you need people. I mean, it's right that we have Trump. We had
But
Trump in the White House, and that hopefully he'll be back there again. But you need people at the local level really making change, and you need that all over the country, which we're starting to see. One thing I do like about Trump is he has energized so many people to get involved in politics, myself included. And and I'm assuming you as well. I'm not sure of your
yes,
story, but yeah. So
definitely.
I think that well, Trump isn't perfect. I think that the fact that he's running and the fact that he's gotten so many people involved is far better than, oh yeah, he did this policy while he was in office. Oh, he said this thing in a speech. Like, I think his coattails across the country are just incredible.
Yes, he does energize people. And actually, when Trump first ran, I was like 12, 13 years old. And initially, I did not like him. But when he was the nominee, that's when I was like, I'll support him. But because he's the Republican nominee, I'm a Republican. My family's Republican. And then I started to see everything. I started to see how biased the media was. They would always say Hillary is up, and they would just smile like they were for her. Like that was my biggest red flag.
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, even 2016, though. I mean, the media was clearly on Hillary's side in 2016, but even that compared to now, what 6 years later? I
Yeah,
mean, the
six,
media is
7.
there's so much more biased now than they were 6 years ago. That it's almost like you watch clips of it in 2016, like you laugh at it. Oh, it's so funny they were so wrong, but like compare that to now. I mean, everything now is just about January 6th and the insurrection and that stuff. It's like, at least back then they actually tried.
They're not even trying now, and they're probably going to go for that fourth indictment with Georgia. When do you think a time frame for the Georgia indictment?
I haven't really been following it because, in all honesty, I think all that stuff is kind of just it's all kind of a nothing burger. I
It
mean,
is definitely.
yeah, I don't think anything. I would be surprised if Trump spends any time in jail, or I mean, he had to pay like a fine, I think, for the one with Stormy Daniels. Other than that, I don't think there's going to be any major repercussions for Trump. I think it's just kind of to get people in, because I mean, if you're an independent, you don't really follow politics too much, and you just see over and over Trump being indicted. I mean, that really hurts your approval rating. I mean, most people aren't that in tune to politics, but
Yeah.
if you just see over and over Trump getting indictment after indictment after indictment, I mean, yeah, you might be like, oh yeah, this is BS, I'm going to vote for Trump now. But I think a lot of people are just going to be tired of that and maybe more open to voting Democrat. I'm not really sure if that's their plan or not, but
Yeah.
I honestly haven't been following it too much because I really don't think anything's going to happen with it.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if Trump goes to jail.
I don't think so. I mean, it's boosting his ratings. Trump's ratings are getting boosted by it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to spend any time in jail. And it's always this after something happens with Hunter, you know.
Yeah, it's funny looking at the timing that all this always happens at.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to bring up is we're on the 4-year. We're approaching the 4-year anniversary since the supposed self-deletion of Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh yeah, that is coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, the 10th, I think it was.
Yeah, I remember seeing that when it happened. I mean, I think we all know what actually went down there. I'll leave it at that.
And at that time, I had been more interested in soccer than politics. But when I heard that Jeffrey Epstein had allegedly deleted himself in prison, I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't buy that.
Yeah, there's no way that,
And
he actually did that.
There's definitely no way that I actually did. And how many clients on the list have we actually seen? How many has the list even been released? I don't think so.
Absolutely none. I mean, the FBI has it. I'm pretty sure they just won't release it.
Like they have like the Hunter Biden laptop, sort of.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, and you can definitely see the bias. Yes, you can definitely see. And another thing that I want to get into is the Obama laptop, and not Obama laptop. Everything's merging. The Obama chef.
Yeah, I mean, when I read that story, the first thing I thought of was like, what did he overhear that caused that to happen?
And you also saw the former Obama. It was the biographer. He came out like on Friday and said that a ex-girlfriend of Obama's from college came to him and said that, oh yeah, Obama said he had sexual fantasies about men when he was in college.
I saw that too. I would not be surprised. I mean, people have been saying that since he first ran for office.
I definitely would not be surprised. And I brought up Joan Rivers yesterday with those family friends, and while she was very old, I think it's kind of I think it's too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, it's too much of a coincidence.
And look, no matter how much Biden is trying to distract us with his Bidenomics, like that's something he posts on Twitter constantly, is how Bidenomics have helped America. Correct me if I'm wrong, but have you seen Bidenomics help?
It's been an absolute failure. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, I think they would be better off saying, yeah, the economy's bad and we're trying to fix it. Because, I mean, it's 70% of Americans are not happy with the state of the economy and it keeps growing. So, I mean, I don't want to help the Democrats out. But, like, if I were them, I think it would be better to campaign on, yeah, the economy's bad, but here's how we're going to fix it. Not to gaslight people by saying, oh, yeah, it's great. Bidenomics is working.
Which is, I think, what other presidents in the past have done, where they've said, okay, they've admitted their failures at least, but they've at least said, we're going to try to fix it, even if they haven't.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That would be the smart thing, but this administration is not smart. It's got some pretty dumb people working in it.
Yeah, they're not sending their best.
They are not saying their best. That is one of the best quotes from Trump.
Yeah.
But do you have anything you want to talk about? Because we still got some other stuff in the news we can talk about.
I'm fine with whatever.
All right. Let's see. So we could wrap around and go to stuff such as, let's see. I see stuff about Justin Trudeau. There's stuff about DeSantis. Like, what are your thoughts on DeSantis?
I mean, I still like him. I think he's a good governor, but he really, I mean, I still have no clue why he ran for president. He had 2028 locked up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes no sense to me. It was just and his campaign has been awful. I mean, I still like the guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But I'm confused by why he decided to run in the first place.
yeah, I still am confused why he would. Because listen, if you're in DeSantis' position, you have to have that patience. Like, okay, I'm not going. I must be better off. You are the heir apparent, and I think this. I honestly think, in this, my opinion, this kind of damages because DeSantis was seen as the heir apparent to Trump.
Yeah, I agree. I think that no matter what he does in the future, whether it's run for president again in 2028, run for maybe Senate in 2028 or 2026 or whenever it might be, I think no matter what he does, I think just the fact that he just announced, even though he hasn't necessarily said anything too bad on the campaign trail or he hasn't adopted any policies that are that bad, just the fact that he ran, I think is the big thing that's going to hurt him. And I mean, he's a young guy too. He could have
Yeah.
served in the Senate for a couple of years. He could have served as president down the line, but whatever future career he had, I think he kind of threw out the window.
Oh, you definitely threw the baby out of the bag. And you see who's coming into third place now, Vivek.
Yeah, I like Vivek. I mean, there's a lot of people online that say, "Oh, he's grifting. Oh, he's bad on this issue here." And really the only problem I have with him is immigration. But I mean, even then, he's against illegal immigration, which is honestly what most Republican politicians believe anyway. At least he's honest and says, yeah, we need more legal immigration. Most Republican politicians wouldn't flat out say that. They just say, oh, yeah, we're against just illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I think he pretty much just holds the generic view of Republicans, but people are using it against him.
I think Vivek has a good chance at 2028. The way he's been supporting Trump, like the fact that he flew down to Miami, I like him.
Yeah, so do I.
And one person I do not like though is Mike Pence.
I used to like Mike Pence.
Same.
I mean, even like recently, like, I mean, when he announced, I was like, oh, I mean, I'm not going to vote for him, but I still have respect for him. I still think he's a good guy, but now not so much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was watching briefly part of that interview. I was in Turks and Caicos when that happened, and I was enjoying the beautiful weather, great steaks there, and I see this as I see Mike Pence. He's on with Tucker, and he's asked, so he wants to give all this money to Ukraine, all these weapons, yet he doesn't care about the American cities.
Yeah, when I saw that clip, I knew he was done.
He destroyed his campaign. He destroyed his political career. It's over.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure why you would even say that out loud. Like, I guess, I mean, you'd think a career politician would be better on his feet, but I guess not.
Definitely. There's also, I think we should go full circle and get back to, we were talking earlier about Cornel West and the whole riff with the Democrats. We've obviously, one of the things that I know, we've got RFK Jr., who I think would be much better off running as a third party to split more of the vote.
I think, I mean, for RFK to win, I think he'd be better off running as a third party. But I think from a Trump 2024 standpoint, I'm glad he's running as a Democrat, because I think if he did run as a third party, he'd take more votes away from Trump than Biden.
Yeah. But there's also, have you ever heard of the No Labels?
Yeah, I have heard of them.
Yes, and allegedly they want Joe Manchin as their candidate. That's what I've heard.
I've seen that too. I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. I'm interested to see what happens, though.
I am as well.
I really don't have any like predictions about that, because I mean, the No Labels, they've been around for like, I think 10 years or something, but they haven't ran a candidate yet.
They haven't. And there was a conference, and that's really interesting. So Steve Bannon, he actually talked about how he thought No Labels, he thought it would be more an effort to try and hurt Trump, and they would run Mitt Romney, because allegedly Mitt Romney's getting ready to retire from his duties as the Senate. I think he's not just him. I think McConnell, Feinstein, lots of these people are in there for too long. But with the no labels, he said he's afraid that Mitt Romney might be the candidate they run.
I mean, that's possible. I think Mitt Romney's probably scared that he's going to get primaried out in next year, which I hope happens.
I
But
do as well.
we'll see. I don't know.
We will see.
I don't think he would run for president. In all honesty, I mean
Yeah.
it's possible, but
He
and even
tried
if he
that.
did, I think he'd probably take more away from Biden than Trump. I mean, there's not many Republicans now, other than maybe outside of Utah, that would vote for him over Trump.
Yeah, I think you're actually kind of right on that. I think that the candidate who has the most significant chance of the third party candidate, and I think with the no labels, I think it's a good thing for third parties because we have the two big parties who they've been running everything, and I'm not sure what your opinion on third parties is.
I mean, ideally, I'd love to have more political parties, but I mean, even in countries where they do have that, they usually kind of just split off into as the center left, center right coalitions. So I'm not really sure how that would work in the United States. So like, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I feel like at the end of the day, eventually we'd still have a center right party and a center left party. And even if we had other parties mixed in there, they'd still side with one of the coalitions. Because I mean, we've seen it's hard to get stuff passed now with two parties. Imagine if there were like
Oh my
4
god.
or 6. So at the end, so on paper it would seem nice to have different people's opinions in office, and I agree with that. But like logistically, I almost think a two-party system is better.
Oh, 100%. I think a two party system in the end probably does because because as much as I like it, you see in the UK or in Italy, you have these parliamentary democracies.
Yeah,
In the
that's what I'm-
Reichstag or in I think in 1922 in Italy, there's a gridlock. No party really had a majority, and the king Victor Emmanuel had to appoint the fascist party as the head. And look at what happened.
yeah.
Yeah, so I am definitely with you. I do think that the current third parties, the Libertarian and the Green Party, are pretty. I think they're still pretty good. And going back to Cornel West, Jill Stein's actually working with him on his campaign.
I've seen that. I know a lot of people who on the left who like Jill Stein, so
Yeah,
that gives him some legitimacy.
that definitely does. And I was talking with my dad about, and he says that he does think that Cornel West is going to attract more of the black vote, take a lot more of that away from Biden, which people are going to say that's not to give. Yeah, it really is in the end game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Biden got like 87% of the black vote or something in 2020, which I mean Trump improved from. I think in 2008 it was only 5% voted for McCain, and then in 2020 it was 13%. So
Yeah.
Republicans have been improving, but I mean still African American voters are just so overwhelmingly Democrat that I mean any of them switching to Cornel West would help Republicans.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring this up. This is from this website, so I'm gonna bring this up. And how much longer do you have?
About a half hour.
All right. So here's this website, and this is from before the midterm in last year. So the number of black eligible voters in the United States has grown at a modest pace in the recent years, projected to reach. So this was, I'm not sure what the statistics were then or after. So it was projected to reach 32.7 million. So essentially 33 million if you're going to round it up.
Yeah.
And
I'm curious. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm curious. Do they say why that is?
They didn't. Let's see. At the
Because
same time,
because we haven't seen a whole lot of immigration from Africa recently, so I'm kind of surprised that the population's grown that much recently.
I am as well. You'd think it was more. I mean, the United States has much larger of a Hispanic population and Black population.
Yeah, and especially I've known the Hispanic population's been growing a lot recently, so
And
because of
mhm,
immigration. I was just
the
curious.
yeah, I thought that was interesting. 51% in 2018, higher than the turnout rates for Latino and Asian eligible voters in the same year, 40% each.
Huh.
Yes,
No, I'm just saying, huh? Like that's interesting.
that is, I do think, and you're much more into the statistics part of it. So, black rural voters can play an important role in determining the outcome of the key 2022 midterm race in the United States in November. Notably, black Americans in Georgia account for a third of eligible voters and will cast ballots in a closely followed race that could determine which party control the Senate next year. We all know that the Democrats are now in control. I mean, they say Kristen Sinema is independent. She's still technically a Democrat,
Yeah.
and they've got this. And although I'm not too much interested in statistics, I think that they're interesting, and we could find another article that goes into who how much of the black vote the Republicans got, because I know they got a very large chunk of the Hispanic vote in 2022.
Yep.
And let me see, the 2022 election by a statistics. So this is from Pew Research, which I got one from another one. I think this is also Pew Research as well. So this is the voting patterns in the 2022 election. And it says right here in this highlight, in the 2022 midterms, 54% of men cast ballots for the GOP, while 44% for Democrats. That seems right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Republicans also gained a higher share of women compared with previous elections. 40% of women cast ballots for GOP candidates in 2022, while 51 favored Democrats. That's actually really good.
That is good. That's surprising too.
Yeah, like usually in the past, as a lot of those white suburban homes, they'll vote for the Democrats.
Yeah,
And
that's typically the last couple cycles how it's gone.
and I think that also I think this is a take I've heard. I'm not sure if you have this, but some of the white suburban moms voting for Biden in 2020, they were detrimental to Trump. Obviously, we know what else was, but what's your thought on that take?
I mean, that definitely hurt Trump. I mean, I think it's kind of funny if you use this analogy. There was on Twitter the Family Guy clip about Republican Town from like 15 years ago or so, and it was basically just like making fun of Republicans. But the stereotype they use is like a wealthy family from the suburbs, and I mean, in the last 15 years, that stereotype is kind of completely switched. I mean, most suburbanites vote are pretty much split, and then it's the rural areas that vote really Republican. So I definitely think that the realignment we've seen hurt Trump. I think if you look at a lot of it, though, I mean, especially it depends on the area, but a lot of counties in like Virginia and Texas, especially, and Colorado, those are the big three. In those places, it's not necessarily that people have been switching their vote; it's that there's been people moving in. Like if you look at all the big suburban counties people talk about that the Republicans are losing ground in, they're usually, I mean, yeah, there's suburbanites who voted for Romney and then didn't like Trump, so they voted for Hillary and then Biden. But there's also like thousands of people that are moving there from California and the Northeast and other parts of the country. So it's kind of a mix of that. But then you get places like Arizona, where, and then parts of the Midwest, like Grand Rapids is a good example, where it's absolutely just people who don't like Trump because he's mean and has mean tweets, so they vote
Yeah.
Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't understand, but that is the case of some people. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, I guess mean tweets. I guess we don't have mean tweets anymore, but we have soaring inflation, high gas prices, the threat of World War III, but we don't have mean tweets, at least.
Thank goodness for that, you know?
Yeah, thank goodness. And so let's see. 57% of white voters casted for the GOP compared to 41. So this is in total just white voters. So the 16% point difference is about as wide as it was by 12 points in 2020 and wider than the in 2018 6 points. So I find that kind of strange. In 2018 it was only 6 point, but it seems to have been grown.
I think 20 is that 26 2018. Okay.
2018.
Yeah, 28. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It was a blue wave year.
Yeah,
but I mean, you're right. That is closer than I thought it would be. But
as in pre-selection, the gender gap among whites in 2022 was similar in 2018. So this is among men and women. So that's no surprise. I think the gender gap in most elections is, since I'm not sure, maybe since 2016, maybe further back.
Yeah, the gender gap has been growing a lot recently, but it's also about whether or not you're married as well. Like, I think married women still vote Republican, but unmarried women vote super Democrat. It used to kind of be pretty much even.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess you could see why.
Yeah.
So then it gets to black voters continue to support Democrats by overwhelming margins. 93% voted for Democrats in the midterm, while 5% voted Republican.
Oh, wow. That's lower than I thought it was.
This is similar to the levels of support in 2020, 2018, and 2016 as in previous elections. In 2022, black men and black women support Democrats at comparable levels. Wow. I thought it was higher.
I did too. I didn't think it was much higher, but I thought it was more than 5%. I thought it was like 15% or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I mean, this is just one poll. It could be higher in another one. But this is Pew Research. They're actually pretty good.
Yeah, Pew Research is usually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, while Hispanic voters continue to favor Democrats over Republicans, a higher share of Hispanic voters supported GOP candidates in the 2022 election compared with 2018, which is true. We saw Miami.
Yep. Miami-Dade.
That went for, I believe, both DeSantis and Rubio.
Yep, it did.
Oh, in November, 60% of Hispanic voters cast ballots for Democrats compared with 39 who supported Republicans.
Huh.
That is interesting. This is a 21-point margin. It's smaller than in 2018 when 72% of Hispanics favored Democrats and 25 supported Republicans. So it's actually been the gap has been decreasing.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to see that it's been decreasing.
Yeah, we need that. And I still think that in 2024, it's going to be still in favor of the Democrats, but I think the gap will have increased a significant amount.
I do too. Because, I mean, you got to remember, for a lot of these people, they probably don't follow politics that closely or as closely as we do. I mean, they kind of just probably watch the news and then vote. So, I mean, to get big shifts like that, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time to slowly shift them over.
Yeah. And this is among Hispanics who cast the vote in the 2018 election, 37 did not vote in the 2022 midterms.
Huh.
Those who did not vote have tilted heavily Democrat. Those who did not vote had tilted heavily Democratic in 2018, reflecting asymmetric changes in voter turnout among Hispanic adults. Asian voters who have favored Democrat candidates over Republican in the last several elections continue to do so in 2022. Again, I can definitely see that. In November, 68% voted for Democrats, while 32% voted Republicans. In 2018, similar ballots for each party cast. 73% for Democrats versus 26% for Republicans. So it does. So thoughts on that?
I'm kind of surprised by the Asian statistic. I thought that it was about 50-50. I mean, maybe it favoring the Democrats a little bit, but I did not think 73-26. That kind of surprised me. But everything else seems to add up.
Mm-hmm. Education and voting preferences. In 2022, voters with a college degree are more education favor Democratic candidates, while those with no college degree prefer Republicans, continuing a long-standing trend of polarization among American voters by education.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, all the stuff they teach you, and thankfully I'm pretty well awake, so I can see past what they're teaching and know that it's not the truth. But a lot of students, they don't.
Yeah, that's a big issue. I think we need to do more to reach out to younger voters.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I've been working to educate some of my peers on stuff. And I think, and like I told you, a lot of people at my college is supposed to be very liberal, but it's actually more conservative from what I've seen. There's a lot of people who are even minorities who are also for Trump.
That's good.
That's what we need. And there's some people who they're still like, oh, why do you support him? He's clearly a racist. I'm like, dude, you do not, dude. Joe Biden's like one of the biggest racists ever, and it's going to take a while. But I do think that with some evidence and just some statistics and facts, then I could perhaps convince a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that you just keep trying, you know?
Mm-hmm. In November, voters with a college, I think we went over this. In November, with the college degree voted more for the Democrats than the Republicans. I think that this says a lot. I mean, you could read the full article. It's from the Pew Research. But I think another one, as we begin to wrap things up, we're having some governor races in 2023. I think one of the most significant ones is Mark Robinson in North Carolina.
That's in 2024, but yeah, it is coming up.
Oh, it's in 2024?
Yep.
But there are some.
Yeah, there are some this year.
And also, so what's up for election in Ohio next year?
Next year, we have, well, obviously the presidential race, all the U.S. House seats, but the big one is the U.S. Senate seat, which is currently held by Sherrod Brown, I mean, everyone in Ohio knows who this guy is. I mean, he was a representative in like the 90s and early 2000s. He was elected senator in 2006, reelected in 2012, reelected in 2018, and he's still relatively popular among voters, but I think he's going to go down next year. If anything, because I mean, we've seen his approval rating start to go down a little bit.
And he's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat. We've seen a lot of people in Ohio that have just became Republicans. I mean, Sherrod Brown, he would always do really well in the Youngstown area, northeastern Ohio, and that's kind of where Trump has done the best and switched so many voters to become Republicans that I think Sherrod Brown should lose. But that's the big race next year.
Definitely. And who do you think has the best chance out of all of the candidates who are running?
I think, as I'm supporting Bernie Moreno, he's a businessman, he's an outsider, but he is polling the worst right now in the primary. Right now, Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State, is leading, and I like Frank LaRose a lot. If he wins the primary, I would support him, but I do think that Bernie Moreno is the better option.
Yeah. Has Trump endorsed any of them?
Trump has not endorsed yet, but he's hinted that he will endorse Moreno, which should give him a boost.
Yeah. Like what we saw with DeSantis in 2018, we all hear the story. We all know the story, or just any candidate, when they get that Trump endorsement, even if they lose, it's really close.
Yeah, the Trump endorsement helps a lot.
Definitely. If you're a candidate running, you want to reach out to Donald Trump because Trump will accelerate that name.
Oh yeah, he has so much reach.
Mm,
It's impressive.
and then then you also had those two representatives endorse Trump. Who are they again?
From Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy Balderson and Bill Johnson.
Ah,
Bill
and
Johnson, I was not surprised about. He's been a pretty close ally of Trump. He's spoken at Trump rallies in Ohio before. If anything, I was surprised it took him that long to endorse him. But Troy Balderson, I was kind of surprised about that because he's been sort of about his support for Trump. He's really he's not that great of a representative. I think we can get someone much better for that district. But I mean, we'll take it. But I was just kind of surprised by that.
yeah, you know what that tells me? That tells me. So, how's he polling? Do you know how he's polling so far?
Trump in Ohio?
No,
Or
not Trump. The guy who you were
Troy
surprised.
Balderson?
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't think I've seen any polls yet, but I do know that in the primary last year he underperformed. So voters in his district, especially Republicans, aren't the biggest fans of him.
That's probably why then he wants to stay in his position, so he's hoping Trump will endorse him.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, you can just tell. I mean, that's what a lot of these feel. I mean, Trump also helped McConnell. I mean, who? Let me get the. Have you seen it yet with McConnell?
Where he was,
Being booed.
yeah, getting booed.
And this is a guy who's been in I forgot how long.
Since the 80s, at least.
Yeah. I think I think he does need to. We saw what happened a couple weeks ago which was actually the last time I had a guest on this guy from the UK, Golden Age Geek. We were talking more about the culture war stuff.
Yep.
And that was when he had, I think, that stroke. I'm not sure what happened with him.
Yeah, I still don't know what happened. I thought it was a stroke too, but it sounds like the official thing they said was like, oh, he just got lightheaded, but that seemed like a stroke to me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not too familiar. Obviously, we're not doctors.
Yeah.
Then we also have Feinstein, who's now in the wheelchair. And what do you think's going to happen with Feinstein?
I mean, I think she should retire. I'm not sure if she will, but
she's like the Skeksis.
Yeah.
I forgot what movie that was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not big on that. I think that McConnell is going to. When's he up for re-election again?
McConnell isn't until 2026.
So we've got a long way. I'm not even sure if he'll last that long.
What I'm hoping happens is that we flip the Kentucky governor race later this year, and they get a Republican in there. McConnell retires, and then we can appoint someone who's actually good on the issues.
Yes. Who's running in that race? Who's good?
Daniel Cameron is the Republican nominee. He's the Attorney General of Kentucky.
Yeah, and I've heard stuff about him. Is he like?
He's pretty solid. I mean, he did used to work for McConnell when he started his career, but as Attorney General, he actually did a really good job with some pro-life legislation. And you're familiar with the whole Breonna Taylor case with the Louisville police? Yeah, that had the riots. He was all on top of making sure that he was backing the police officers involved in that and having their backs. But he did launch a full investigation. So I mean, he is pretty solid on the issues. I like him.
Yeah. I think that any voters in Kentucky need to vote for Daniel Cameron for governor in November.
Definitely.
Are there any races, like local races in Ohio in November?
Well, this November there's the abortion referendum, which that'll be interesting. It really depends what happens tomorrow. If issue 1 passes, then I highly doubt the abortion referendum passes, because I don't think 60% of Ohioans would vote for an abortion referendum. Maybe 55%, but I really don't think 60%. I mean, even in Michigan, which is a pretty blue state, their abortion referendum only got like 56%. So, I mean, it really just comes down to what happens tomorrow.
Definitely. And anyone who's in Ohio right now, you have a message for them?
Yeah, I would say get out and vote whenever you can. Polls are open from 6:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night. You can go before work, after work, on your lunch break. You have Ohio. We do a really good job with our polls. Usually the lines aren't too long. It shouldn't take you more than 10, 15 minutes, depending on when you go. You have 13 hours to do it. Vote yes is all I can really say.
Definitely. You do not, because this sets a terrible precedent, like with the ranked choice voting that we see in Alaska that they wanted to bring to Nevada.
Yeah. I mean, if issue 1 fails, we've already seen the mayor of Cleveland mention that he would like to see some sort of anti-Second Amendment legislation passed.
And that's in Ohio.
Yeah. Whether or not that would pass or fail, because Ohio is a pretty pro-gun state, I'm not sure. But the fact that they're even considering getting some gun-grabbing bill in the state constitution through referendum should be enough to get anyone to vote yes.
Yeah. I am hoping that are you pretty confident that this is going to get?
I'm cautiously optimistic is what I've been saying.
You've got to be cautiously optimistic.
I mean, everything that we've seen says it should be a really close, referendum. I mean, the polling has it neck and neck. There's been 3 polls, two of the 3 had yes leading. I mean, the majority of people in those polls said that they were going to vote yes. One had no leading, but I mean, who knows about the polls? I wasn't very confident a few weeks ago, but the last few weeks I've seen a lot of people. I've seen a lot of signs, and I know signs aren't everything, but they can kind of give you a good idea about energy. And we've seen in the early vote, a lot of Republicans are starting to turn out. A lot of Republicans are starting to vote. So I'm still not sure exactly if I say I'm about 50-50, but I am a week ago, I would have said there's no way it passes. So the fact that I'm 50-50, I think says a lot about how it could pass.
All right. Do you have anything else?
No, that about does it. Just get out and vote yes tomorrow.
And you've got like less than an hour left, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess you want to start wrapping up?
Yeah, sure.
So where can people follow you and what you have coming up?
Well, I am on YouTube, obviously. Just look up Buckeye Politics. I should be the first one that comes up. It's the @ I think is Buckeye Politics 1. Same thing with Twitter. It's just @ Buckeye Politics 1. I'm really only on Twitter and YouTube right now. I'm hopefully going to start uploading on YouTube a little bit more frequently, but I'm usually pretty active on Twitter. I'd love to interact with anyone,
Definitely.
I like talking to people, like interacting with people, having discussions like this. So
yeah, I'll have to get you back on because I've also obviously have you done stuff with Red Eagle Politics before?
I've talked with him, but I've never done anything with him.
Yeah, well, that could change because I'm going to send a message out and perhaps like next week I could get both of you guys on at the same time and we could do like a full thing.
Oh, that would be great.
Yes, I will have to reach out to Red Eagle and so you said anything else you want to say?
No, that's about it. Just vote yes. Thank you for having me on. I had a really good time.
No problem. Hey, I'd love to have you back on. You're like a great guest.
Thank you.
All right, and I think subscribe to Buckeye Politics, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you later. And now we will play. So at the end of each stream, I play the national anthem. I have on Streamlab, you can have StreamYards, you have video clips, and you can play the national anthem as one of my clips I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
nice.
Later.
See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.